Gary Condit breaks his silence. Tonight, Connie Chung with the first interview.
Was Chandra Levy in love with you? Did you have anything to do with her disappearance? Did you kill Chandra Levy?
The questions that won't go away. 115 days after 24-year-old Chandra Levy vanished, the mystery grows. Now, for the first time, Congressman Condit, in his own words.
I've not been a perfect man, and I've made my share of mistakes.
What else does he know? And how does he defend his behavior?
From ABC News, this is Primetime Thursday with Diane Sawyer and Charles Gibson. Tonight, a Primetime exclusive. Gary Condit breaking his silence. Primetime Thursday. We'll be back after this brief message. And now from Times Square in New York, Charles Gibson.
Good evening. Diane is on vacation tonight, but we do welcome you to what promises to be a most extraordinary edition of Primetime Thursday. Chandra Levy is one of thousands of young women missing in America. Her case might have been overlooked, but for the fact that from the time she disappeared, her name was linked with that of a United States Congressman, Gary Condit. For reasons he will explain to you tonight, he has kept a public silence about Chandra Levy's disappearance and their relationship. Until now. This afternoon at a friend's ranch in California, he talked with Connie Chung, who joins us from there now. Connie?
Charlie, the pressure on Condit has been building. Newspaper editorials call on him to resign. And as the leads in the Chandra Levy case grow cold, his silence has been deafening. Then this week, we got the call. Gary Condit was ready to talk. Congressman Condit, do you know what happened to Chandra Levy?
No, I do not.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No, I didn't.
Did you say anything or do anything that could have caused her to drop out of sight?
You know, Chandra and I never had a crossword.
Do you have any idea if there was anyone who wanted to harm her?
No.
Did you cause anyone to harm her?
No.
Did you kill Chandra Levy?
I did not.
What brought a little-known six-term conservative Democrat to this very strange place in his life and career? It's a story that began with a missing person, a young woman from his home district.
Any chance we could ask you about...
It is every parent's worst fear. A child has vanished without a trace.
I want my daughter home, and I want her alive, and I want the truth to come out.
The cast, now familiar to all of us. A missing 24-year-old Washington intern, now seen only in home movies and photographs. Her frantic parents, the police, the lawyers, and at the white-hot center of that search for the truth, Congressman Gary Condit. It started 115 days ago, April 30th. Chandra Levy is packing to go home to California. Her government internship is over. She stops by her health club and speaks to this employee.
She was very upbeat and looking forward to going home.
But it turns out he would be the last person known to see Chandra Levy alive. 6 days later, no word at all. The Levys are desperate. For weeks, they've suspected their daughter was having a secret affair with their congressman.
A lot of ventures in D.C. and our congressman's friend. And...
So Chandra Levy's mother, Susan, calls him privately, but she says he denied an affair. The same day, the family files a missing persons report. Condit quickly joins them in offering a reward for information. And D.C. police begin an intense search. It's frustrating, says Police Chief Charles Ramsey.
It is a very unusual case that we have here. Her doors were locked, the bags were packed, cash, credit cards still inside the apartment.
In the absence of any strong clues, rumors begin to circulate about Condit. Soon, the police interview him at his apartment. The police say he is not a suspect.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
17 days and still no trace of Chandra Levy. Her parents hold a news conference to keep her in the spotlight, but reporters keep coming back to Condit. Reporters and TV crews follow Condit everywhere, but he says absolutely nothing.
Do you know anything about where Chandra Levy is, sir?
Chandra has been missing now
for 6 weeks.
The Levy's lawyer, Billy Martin, hammers away with the same plea.
We would ask Congressman Condit and anybody else with information, please cooperate with the police.
2 weeks later, things get much worse for Condit, a married man with 2 grown children. This flight attendant claims she was having an affair with him and that he asked her to sign a statement denying it.
Well, obviously, Mr. Condit knew it was false, and he was asking me to sign it.
I have a statement here.
Chandra Levy's aunt, Linda Zamsky, goes public. She says Chandra had confided in her about the affair with Condit. We now know that very day, Condit is having his 3rd interview with police. And according to law enforcement sources, the congressman finally admits his affair with Chandra Levy. 67 days have passed since the intern vanished. Condit's lead attorney, Abby Lowell, comes to his defense.
Congressman Condit has never been and is not now a suspect in the disappearance of Chandra Levy.
But police still have questions, and Condit allows a late-night search of his apartment. But later, the police learned before they ever arrived, Condit was spotted in another neighborhood discarding a small object. It was a case for an expensive men's watch like this. Sources say it was a gift from yet another woman. Next, Condit is linked to even more women. More questions surface. By mid-July, Attorney Lowell reveals Condit has taken and passed a polygraph exam administered by an expert he hired. It proves, Lowell claims, Condit told the truth when he answered no to 3 key questions.
Did the congressman have anything at all to do with the disappearance of Miss Levy? Second, did he harm her or cause anyone else to harm her in any way? And third, does he know where she can be located?
But the police want to run their own exam.
They've refused to do a second polygraph administered by the FBI.
Which brings us to tonight. 115 days, and Chandra Levy is still missing. When we come back, Congressman Gary Condit.
When Connie Chung sat down this afternoon with Gary Condit, there were no restrictions on what she could ask. The only ground rules were that the interview would last a half hour and would air unedited. Here now, more of the interview with Congressman Condit.
Can you describe your relationship? What exactly was your relationship with Chandra Levy?
Well, I met Chandra last October, and we became very close. I met her in Washington, D.C.
Very close, meaning?
We had a close relationship. I liked her very much.
May I ask you, was it a sexual relationship?
Well, Connie, I've been married for 34 years, and I've not been a perfect man, and I've made my share of mistakes. But out of respect for my family and out of a specific request from the Levy family, I think it's best that I not get into those details about Chandra Levy.
Congressman Condit, do you recall when it was during President Clinton's impeachment hearings, you called for, and I quote, the public airing of every detail of his affair, saying, quote, only when we strip away the cloak of secrecy and lay the facts on the table can we begin to resolve this matter. Shouldn't those rules apply to yourself?
Well, I've watched that clip and I've heard that quote. My view of that is it's taken out of context. The fact of the matter is that the Starr report was there, and the Republicans were drip, drip, drip releasing that report, and it was embarrassing.
We want to talk about you,
well, let me
not
finish.
President
Clinton.
Clinton.
Let me finish, because it relates to President Clinton. And I asked that the Starr report, along with other people, be released in its total so that we could get to the impeachment hearing. And the real issue here that the media seems to have forgotten and misreported many times is that I voted 4 times not to impeach President Clinton. That's the real issue.
We're not talking about that right now. What we're talking about is whether or not you will come forward to lift this veil of suspicion that seems to have clouded you. Can you tell us, did you have a romantic relationship with Chandra Levy?
Well, once again, I've been married 34 years. I have not been a perfect man. I have made mistakes in my life. But out of respect for my family, out of a specific request by the Levy family, it's best that I not get into the details of the relationship.
Can you tell me this? Was Chandra Levy in love with you? Were you in love with her?
Well, I don't know that she was in love with me. She never said so, and I was not in love with her.
Did she want to marry you and have your child?
I only knew Chandra Levy for 5 months, and in that 5 months period, we never had a discussion about a future, about children, about marriage. Any of those items never came up in that 5-month period.
Did you ever make promises to her?
Never.
Did she want you to leave your wife?
No. I mean, I've been married for 34 years, and I intend to stay married to that woman as long as she'll have me.
I understand what you're saying regarding being specific about the relationship. However, don't you realize that part of the reason why you're in the situation that you're in is because that there have been ambiguous or evasive answers to specific questions?
Well, there have been no evasive answers to specific questions by me.
Right now there is, sir.
Well, no, there have not been. I have talked to the people who are responsible for finding Chandra Levy. I've been very specific. I've told them every detail in every interview about my relationship with Chandra Levy and any other questions that they have had to ask.
Indeed, when the police questioned you on the first 2 occasions, you did not reveal the specifics of your relationship with Chandra Levy. Isn't that correct? It wasn't until the 3rd interview with police that you revealed your relationship in its true manner.
In the first interview, I revealed every bit of the details about Chandra Levy. I answered every question that law enforcement asked me. In the 2nd interview, I did the same thing. I answered every question that was asked of me and released every detail to law enforcement. Now, let me just say to you, Connie, if I may.
Truthfully, did you answer every question truthfully?
I answered every question truthfully. That's what you're supposed to do when you're cooperating with the police.
But did you reveal that you were having an affair with her?
I'm not going to go into the aspects of the details of the investigation or the interviews. I'm just saying to you that I answered every question asked of me by the police department on every occasion.
But the police department has said that you impeded the investigation.
Well, that's pretty confusing. I mean, it's real confusing because a couple days after it was reported that Chandra Levy had been missing, after her father had called me here in California, 2 days later, I had 2 detectives in my house in Washington, D.C., and we had a 45-minute interview. So I answered every question, gave them every bit of the detail in that interview. And you know how Washington, D.C. works. It has dual jurisdiction. Well, the next interview, there was a new set of personnel in that interview. In the 3rd interview, there was the Department of Justice, the federal prosecutor. I had to go through that interview. And then in the 4th interview, there was the FBI. Now, they all asked the same questions over and over again.
Maybe did they specifically ask you if you had a romantic relationship with Chandra Levy?
They asked every question they wanted to ask and every detailed question they asked, and I answered.
And did you tell them that you did have a romantic relationship with her?
I told them everything they asked, answered every question, and I did nothing to slow down the investigation.
Now, when Mrs. Levy called you and said that her daughter was missing, and she asked you point blank, she says, at a critical time in the investigation as to whether or not you had an affair with her daughter, you answered, according to her, matter-of-factly, no. Were you telling the truth?
I never lied to Mrs. Levy. The fact of the matter is that whole week I had several conversations with the Levys, Dr. Levy and Mrs. Levy. We talked about several items in the case.
So when you said no, you were telling the truth?
What Mrs. Levy asked me was a series of questions about a lot of things. And I'm sorry if she misunderstood those conversations, but in those conversations, she made a lot of statements. My job was to console and do what I could do to be helpful, but I never lied to Mrs. Levy at all. I'm sorry if she misunderstood the conversations. She made several statements about a variety of different people. My role was to listen, to be helpful. I knew they were going through pain and anguish, and I was doing everything that I could do to be helpful to them and not be a problem.
Congressman Condit, I do not know exactly whether you did have an affair with Chandra Levy or not, because you will not answer that question. Now, when Mrs. Levy asked you if you had had an affair, she says you said no, and you are now saying that you didn't lie to her.
I'm saying that, yes.
So are you saying that she misunderstood you when
Yes.
you said no?
Well, I'm not sure
You
what...
should have said yes?
I'm not sure what conversation she was talking about. She made several references to several people. My job was just simply to be helpful to her to try to get through whatever she was getting through. I never lied to Mrs. Levy.
Well, I mean, here is a mother who is asking you a critical question about her daughter who is missing. You needed to provide her with the truth and the correct answer.
Correct, and
Did you do that?
I told her the truth.
You told her that you were indeed...
She did not ask me that question. She made several references about people, and I'm not going to get into the names of the people, but I told Mrs. Levy the truth. I'm sorry, and I regret if she misunderstood what I had to say.
Tell me something. When Chandra Levy would come to your apartment, correct?
She'd been there, yes.
And when she came to your apartment, did you set rules for her to follow, such as never to bring her identification with her?
I never, ever told anyone not to carry their identification.
Now, it's a critical question because, in fact, when she disappeared, she left her identification at home in her apartment and only took her keys, apparently. Right. So you're saying there were virtually no rules. There were no rules at all
no rules.
When she came to visit you.
No rules. I would never, ever not ask someone to carry their identification. I don't know what would be the purpose of that.
Now, she confided in her aunt, and her aunt said that these were the rules, that there were certain rules that she had to abide by, and that indeed she did have an affair with you. Are you suggesting that either the aunt is terribly mistaken or that Chandra Levy was fabricating all of this?
Well, I can only say that I did not have those conversations with Chandra, and Chandra's not here to defend herself. So I don't know why the aunt would say that.
But regarding the relationship in and of itself, are you suggesting that Chandra Levy's aunt did not have the correct information, or that Chandra Levy herself had created this affair as a figment of her imagination?
I can only say I never had those conversations with Chandra.
Which conversations?
The conversations that you're suggesting, that there was going to be a future, we were going to get married, and that there were some kind of rules. I never had those conversations. So, so I don't know where the aunt got that.
But going back to whether or not you had an affair and the fact that you're not willing to answer that question, Chandra Levy's aunt says that indeed Chandra told her that you had an affair. So I'm asking you, are you trying to suggest that Chandra Levy did not have an affair with you and that it was a fabric of her imagination?
I don't know why she told the aunt what she told the aunt. She told the aunt apparently a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is I'm going to go back to this. I've been married 34 years. I've made some mistakes in my life. I'm not a perfect man. But out of respect for my family and out of a request, a specific request from the Levys, I will not go into the details of Chandra Levy.
What did they exactly ask you to do?
Well, they asked a couple nights ago on one of the TV shows that they did not want to hear about the details of the relationship.
I'm not asking you details. I'm simply asking you if it was more than just a friendship.
Well, let me say, the details included they didn't want to know how I felt about her or how she felt about me. So I'm trying to honor that. I'm trying, and I think the American people understand that people are entitled to some privacy. I'm entitled to try to retain as much privacy as I can. The Levys are entitled to retain as much privacy on behalf of their daughter as they can. I'm going to honor that.
But you are protecting your privacy, your family's privacy, at the expense of a woman who is missing.
Well, that's not correct. That's not correct at all, because I have cooperated with law enforcement, the people who are responsible for finding Chandra. No, I haven't held a news conference, and no, I don't do talk shows.
Forgive me, but we have gone over this area already, but the police even said that you impeded the investigation. They do not believe that you have fully cooperated. In fact, the word from the police is that your lack of candor impeded the investigation.
Well, I'm confused if you're making reference to Chief Ramsey's latest comment. Let me tell you, Connie, I have interviewed 4 times. I mean, I interviewed with the Metropolitan Police Department. I've interviewed a second time with the Metropolitan Police Department and the commander. I interviewed with the Department of Justice, the federal prosecutor, also with the MPD. I interviewed with FBI. I allowed them to search my home where they ripped up my carpet, they took the paint off the walls, they put the drains down the pipes. And let me finish.
Sir.
Because this is a very important point. I have done everything to the point where I've let them interview my staff. They've searched the cars.
Did you at any time
I flew my wife.
To lie?
I flew my wife to Washington.
At any time
well,
ever ask your staff to lie?
Let me finish this, because you're making the accusation I think is a very important one, that I have not been cooperative. And I'm puzzled by why the police chief would say that. I don't think there's anyone in Washington, D.C. who's been more cooperative in this investigation than myself. And I'm confused by why the police chief would say that. Several weeks before that, the chief...
Because you didn't reveal the true nature of your relationship with Chandra Levy until the third interview.
Well, that's just not correct. In every interview, I answered every question, gave every detail.
So are you suggesting that the police didn't quite ask you the right question the first and second time?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that you're going on unnamed sources of the third interview of people who were not even in the room.
But you can clear the air.
Well, I'm clearing the air.
You can clear the air now by revealing exactly what kind of relationship you had. Because isn't it obvious to you that when you're dealing with a missing persons case, that any relationship with the missing person is important for police authorities to know?
Well, but you and I are working under two different assumptions here, I think. I think it's my job to work with the people who have the responsibility to find Chandra, not to go out and do news conferences and do talk shows to talk about that.
But
I worked with the law enforcement people in every step, provided them information in every interview, and gave up a lot of my civil liberties to make sure that they had all the information that they needed.
But aren't you here to set the record straight?
I think I am setting the record straight.
Would you like to tell the truth about your relationship with her?
I've told you and responded to the relationship question, and I think the American people and people watching out there understand. I think they understand that I'm entitled to some of my privacy, my family's entitled to some of their privacy, and certainly the Levys are as well.
When we come back.
Why are you reluctant to answer that question? If there was nothing wrong with it, why can't you say how many times she came to visit?
Gary Condit, breaking his silence when Primetime continues.
Gary Condit arrived here at the ranch with his family, his wife Carolyn, and his two children, Katie and Chad. They were in another room watching on a monitor as the congressman sat for the most important interview of his career. Why don't we talk about the last time you met with Chandra Levy?
Sure.
That was at your apartment, and correct me if I'm wrong, April 24th. Is that
well,
correct?
It was 24th to the 25th.
And during that meeting, during that occasion on April 24th, did you two discuss the future of your relationship?
No, we had no such discussion. We never had a crossword.
Well, tell me something. Why would she come to your apartment? She's a single woman. You're a married man. Did she always come to your apartment to visit you?
I have people who come to my apartment all the time, but she came to my apartment on that day to tell me that she had just lost her internship with the Department of Justice.
Right.
And that was the discussion we had that day.
After that, what was the next conversation that you had with her? Do you recall when your last conversation with her was?
Well, I had a phone conversation with her on April the 29th, which lasted for about a minute.
Just a minute?
Yeah, approximately a minute.
She had called you repeatedly on that date, correct?
Well, no, that's not correct.
Her phone records show that.
Well, she might have left a message, but, you know, the news media reported that she made all these frantic calls, and that's just not correct.
But her phone records show that she called you repeatedly.
She didn't make the frantic phone calls that people say. She may have placed a call to me. She had my voice machine, my voice, phone company voice answering machine. She may have called and left a message, but it doesn't indicate that I have a whole series of messages from her.
All right, during that conversation, was she upset about anything? Did you say we needed to break up our friendship, anything like that?
No, Connie, we never had a crossword. It was simply about her travel plans that she was talking about going back to California. She was real excited about going through her ceremony at USC. So she was real upbeat.
She wasn't upset about anything?
She wasn't upset about anything. She wasn't upset about losing her job. That was a little
She
bit,
wasn't?
No, she was a little disappointed by it, but she had other plans and other hopes, and she took it very good.
Did you talk to her, as a general rule, often? Several times
several times a week. Yeah.
Several times a week?
Yeah.
Not several times a day, every day?
Not several times a day, every day.
And how often do you think she came to your apartment to visit you?
Well, I provided all those details to the appropriate people, the law enforcement people. They have that. And it would be
Congressman,
best not to get...
Why are you reluctant to answer that question?
Because that's provided to law enforcement and the people who are responsible for finding Chandra Levy.
But I mean, if there was nothing wrong with it, why can't you say how many times she came to visit you?
Because if I say a time to you, I may be off. I don't know the amount of time on top of my head.
Could you give me a general idea?
But we have shared all that with law enforcement, and I think it's best that we not go into that. And out of respect for my family and out of request from the Levy family, I just can't go there.
Well, after you had that conversation with her, you said it lasted only a minute. When did you expect to talk to her again?
Well, she gave me the impression that she was going to take a train to California, so I assumed in the next few days she was going to take a train to California, so I might talk to her after she got to California. I might talk to her when she got back from California. It wasn't clear to me whether or not she was actually going to move to California, come back, and try to find another job. Chandra was interested in working at the FBI. She was interested in working at the CIA or NSA, something like that. She was very interested in those areas, and so the reason the Federal Prison Bureau job was important to her because she thought that was a stepping stone in getting into the FBI.
On that same day, Chandra left a message for her aunt saying she had some important news. Do you know what that important news was?
I do not.
There has been talk about a possibility that Chandra Levy was pregnant. Do you know if she was pregnant?
I have no reason to think that.
Did she tell you she was pregnant or anything of that sort?
No, she did not.
All right. Did you speak with her again after April 29th?
No, April 29th was the last conversation.
So you're saying that you didn't expect to hear from her for about a week?
Well, actually, I tried to call her because
When did you try and call her?
I tried to call her probably the 30th or the 31st or sometime in that week.
There is no 31st.
I'm the 30th or May 1st. I did try to, well, maybe later in the week because I had not heard from her.
And you were expecting to hear? You just said that you weren't expecting to hear from her.
I thought I might hear her about her travel plans. She might leave a message and say she was taking a train or she wasn't taking a train. I never heard that.
So did you call her, you're saying, on the 29th?
Yes, I placed a call.
Or the 30th?
I placed a call on sometime during the next few days to try to find out what her travel plans were going to be.
And you called her apartment?
Yes, I left a note. Yes, I left a message.
And did she ever call you back?
No.
Were you concerned?
I was concerned that she had not called me back, but also just assumed that she had taken the train, and she told me the train was going to take 4 days.
You can't remember exactly when you called?
On the...
yes, when you called again. When you called, was it the 30th, May 1st,
well,
2nd, 3rd, 4th?
It could have been the 1st, it could have been the 2nd, but somewhere in that time frame.
Your wife made a rare visit to Washington the week that Chandra Levy disappeared. Did she have any conversations with Chandra Levy?
No, my wife did not know Chandra Levy.
Did your wife know what kind of relationship, or did any member of your family know what kind of relationship you had with Chandra Levy?
No member of my family knew Chandra Levy.
Did you ever talk to any member of your family about her?
No.
When did your family become aware of Chandra Levy's existence, that perhaps there was talk that you had some kind of personal relationship with her?
Well, the way we were notified that Chandra was missing is on Sunday, May the 6th, Dr. Levy called my house. He talked to my wife. I wasn't there. Told Carolyn that he was concerned because he had not heard from Chandra for several days. Mm-hmm. And then when I came in, I mean, I was horrified to hear that she was missing.
Was that the first time you had heard?
That was the first time I'd heard that. And then, you know, you're horrified, but at the same time, you're a parent, you think there might be another side to this that's just a mistake. So I called Dr. Levy at home and talked with him, and obviously the anxiety and the hurt in his voice prompted me to commit to him that I would call the law enforcement people immediately, because he had thought that the Metropolitan Police Department had not taken it serious, that maybe she'd just gone on an extended holiday or something.
I see.
So right after that, I was in Washington, D.C. on Monday. I contacted law enforcement. I asked the FBI to be involved. I helped set up the reward fund. And so we were consistently, quickly involved. Within 2 days, I had detectives in my house talking to me about
Yes, I remember
the
you're
details.
telling me that.
In the past 150 days in the press, Congressman Gary Condit's name has been linked not only to Chandra Levy, but to other women as well. How does that fit into the investigation? That question to the congressman in a moment.
Primetime continues. Once again, Connie Chung's exclusive interview with Gary Condit.
I'm going to turn to another area. A flight attendant named Anne Marie Smith said that she had a year-long relationship with you and that you asked her to lie about it. True?
I didn't ask anyone to lie about anything. I did not ask Anne Marie not to cooperate with law enforcement. That's an absolute... absolute lie.
This is a statement that your lawyers gave to her, and it says, I do not and have not had a romantic relationship with Congressman Condit.
Well, that's a lawyer-to-lawyer statement.
You didn't authorize your lawyer?
I didn't have any... the lawyers...
Your lawyer just hauled off and sent this to her.
That is a draft statement that a lawyer sent to another lawyer. I did not have anything to do with that.
But why would he write up a draft of something without your authorization? I mean, why would you want her to say that she didn't have a relationship with you?
Because she didn't.
Why would she make it up?
Well, you know, Connie, I'm puzzled by people who take advantage of tragedy, a missing person that they don't even know.
You're saying that she completely fabricated this.
She's taken advantage of this tragedy. She didn't know Chandra Levy. So she gets to have her moment of publicity or financial gain, and I'm puzzled by that.
Hours before D.C. police searched your apartment, you were seen throwing away a watch box in a dumpster. Why did you do that?
Well, the watch box had nothing to do with Chandra Levy, and the police know that. The fact
were
of the
you
matter,
trying to cover up a relationship with yet another woman?
Let me finish this. The watch box had nothing to do with Chandra Levy. The watch box, I did not take anything out of the apartment before or after the search. The watch box had nothing to do with Chandra Levy at all. It was trash that I threw away.
But why did you throw it away hours before the search?
Well, the watch box, I didn't take anything out of my apartment. The search was in my apartment. Nothing came out of my apartment before the search or after the search.
Are you saying the watch box was somewhere else other than your apartment?
Yes.
Where was it?
It would be in my office.
So why did you throw it away?
Well, because I was cleaning out my office, to be very frankly with you.
But why throw it in a dumpster somewhere instead of just throwing it in the trash can in your office?
The fact of the matter is the watch box has nothing to do with Chandra Levy.
Well,
and the police department know this.
Don't you think it's rather suspicious behavior, though, to throw a watch box in a dumpster?
Well, first of all, I did not throw it in a dumpster. I threw it in a trash can on a street, understanding that the tabloids are going through every bit of my trash at my office, going through things in my office, trying to get things out of my office. It was trash. I threw it away.
But, well, I mean, if there was nothing to it, so what if the tabloids would find it? If there was nothing, who gave it to you?
Well, there was nothing to it.
Who gave it to you?
It was a gift.
From?
It was a gift.
A woman in the office who worked in your office?
Years ago.
And did you have a relationship with her?
I did not.
All right. Tell me, have you made any attempt to silence anyone about any relationship you've had with a woman?
I have not asked anyone to be silent about anything.
All right.
As a matter of fact, anyone who says that we tried to keep people from cooperating is just lying.
Why won't you take a polygraph test administered by the police, and why won't you cooperate with Chandra Levy's parents' investigators?
Well, let me say that you know, this is sort of new to me. But when the polygraph issue came up...
What is sort of new to you?
This polygraph issue, in that I'm not familiar with polygraph people, but we went out to find the best.
I understand.
The best in the country.
Why won't you take one?
We found the best in the country that he trains the FBI agents who give the polygraph test. And so we took the test. We passed the test. And his credibility is unchallenged by people in the industry. And I'm confused by the police chief's comment immediately after we take the polygraph test. He did not read the polygraph test. I think you'll find that people are in the FBI now have seen the polygraph test. They can read the polygraph test, and it makes total sense to them. So we basically thought we were being helpful, just found the best guy we could find, and that's what we did. And I don't know if...
Why won't you cooperate with the Levy family investigators? And why won't you take... If you are guilty of no criminal wrongdoing, if you're not guilty of any criminal wrongdoing, why don't you take a polygraph test given by the police and cooperate with Chandra Levy?
Well, we've taken a polygraph test, and it proves that I'm innocent. And it's by a guy who's one of the highest regarded gentlemen in that field in the country.
I understand. All right.
And on the investigators of the Levys, we have offered information that we have on all the issues to the investigators. We have sent letters to them. They have not responded. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about the sincerity of their request, the investigators' request, if they're not willing to take some of the information that we have, go through it, and see what it is they need. Once they go through it, if there's something that we can be helpful with, we're open to do that. But they need to be, they need to at least show that they're really interested in finding out what we've already done, what's been said, what the investigation that we've been through says. And once they do that, we're open to talk to them.
All right.
But we just don't want it to be a TV show or some sort of publicity stunt.
We have just a few minutes left. What has all of this done to you and your family?
Well, it's been tough. I mean, it's been tough on my family. We've gone through tough times. I mean, as I mentioned, they dragged my wife across the country for an interview because they refused to do it here, and they were going to subpoena her. They tried to go through her medical records. They reported she didn't have thumbs, and they chased my children around, the tabloids have. But the fact of the matter is this is not about the Condits. This is about the Levys. And that's minor pain, and that's minor interference with our life compared to what Dr. and Mrs. Levy are going through. Our sympathy and our hearts go to Dr. and Mrs. Levy, not the stuff that we've gone through.
Still to come, the final minutes of Connie Chung's interview with Gary Condit, including what he thinks happened to Chandra Levy, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, during the interview today, the Condit family asked us to publicize one more time the phone numbers people can call if they have any information about Chandra Levy's disappearance.